Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dr. Cammy and Karen Go Keto. We are here with you today with a special interview with Doug Reynolds from Low Carb USA. And I'm in my car driving. That's why you don't see me. And we're going to have Cammy start it off with Doug, and we're going to pick his brain about all kinds of things, low carb and metabolic health. So take it away, Cammy.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Karen, and welcome, Doug. This is Doug Reynolds. He is the founder, co-founder of Low Carb USA, which has been around for how long now, Doug? Quite a while.
Yeah, about 9 years, I think. We started in the beginning of 2016.
Yes, 9 years, informing people about metabolic health, how to live a healthy lifestyle, lots of stuff going on with Low Carb USA, and it has outbranched and created lots of different branches in lots of different areas. And Doug holds many hats in all those areas. He's an outstanding person. He is a great example personally, and also, a testament to all the hard work that he does with the excellent symposiums that he puts on, which I'm excited to go to the one in San Diego coming up in August from the 15th to the 18th, Symposium for Metabolic Health. And there's going to be a lot of people there who are members of the Society of Metabolic Practitioners who have become certified in practicing metabolic health. And so today, what I wanted to have you do, Doug, if you could, is just talk a little bit about the first day of that symposium, which is going to focus on metabolic health. On mental health, and how practicing a healthy metabolic lifestyle can really improve mental health. There's going to be lots of good speakers there, if you could mention a few. And then we can get into talking about all the different facets of Low Carb USA and what it can offer to both people that are out there as well as people who want to treat patients in the field of metabolic health. So thank you so much for being here for us.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me. It's a privilege. Thank you. So, starting last year in January at our event in Boca Raton, we ended up having a focus day on food addiction. And so the entire first day and even a workshop that we had the day before was all focused on food addiction. And it went down really, really well. And so we sort of decided that going forward at each of our events, we were going to choose a particular condition that we would have a focus day on, as opposed to having maybe one lecture that about that particular topic. So in San Diego last year, we'd had a focus on cancer. In Boca this year again, we focus on type 1 diabetes. And this year in San Diego, as you mentioned, the focus is on mental health. There's been tremendous strides forward in pretty much even the last year or the last 2 years in terms of how beneficial it can be in the mental health field. And I think a lot of that's got to do with the Bazookies and the Bazooki Foundation. They basically some very wealthy people whose son developed bipolar and literally dropped out of college and was living on the streets, literally living on the streets. Now, these guys, they've got any amount of money that they could have to throw at it, they could. And yet they still couldn't help their son. And he was living on the streets. And they found out about this ketogenic diet through Chris Palmer, I think it was, really, in terms of how it might be able to help him. And they somehow managed to get him onto this program. And, he's literally back to normal. And his whole life has changed. He's back at college, I believe. And they have chosen now to put money into research with respect to the carbohydrate reduction, so TCR, let's call it that, and how that can be a benefit in the mental health field. So it wasn't because of that that we decided to do that. It was just that there was more and more conversations going on within our communities and on social media about mental health, that when we were looking for a subject to choose for this year's event, that's kind of what we settled on. So now our little subcommittee for this particular day really comprises of Georgia Eid, which I think many of you are familiar with, and Brett Scher, who is the CEO now of Metabolic Mind, which is an organization that's focusing all of this research and stuff, that he's basically part of the Bizuki Foundation. And so we've actually got him as a speaker, but he's rather going to do like a Q&A sort of thing with someone else from the foundation. He's going to do, so she works for the Metabolic Mind and the foundation. She's got an amazing personal story. So he's basically going to get that testimonial from her on the stage. We're also hoping that Matt Bizuki, who is the Bizuki's son that had these problems, we're hoping to be able to even get him there as well. So he'll be on the stage as well for that session. We've got Guido Frank talking about therapeutic ketogenic diets to treat anorexia. We have Tanzan Murphy from the Noakes Foundation in South Africa, who'll be talking about ketogenic diet for anxiety. Laurie Calabresi is going to be talking on a paper that they just got published on the benefits of this ketogenic diet and TCR for depression and anxiety. So that's going to be an amazing talk. Georgia Eid obviously is going to kick the whole thing off. She's calling it Metabolic Psychiatry, the Science of Hope. Is the heading for her talk?
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah,
that's going to be really neat.
That'll be a pretty awesome way to kick off the whole
right.
conference.
So she's a psychiatrist, for those of you that don't know.
Correct.
And she just wrote a book that's fabulous. Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind. Is that what it's called? I have it, and I just haven't had time to read it.
Correct. I also haven't either, but I know Pam's busy trying to get through it, because we need to do a podcast interview with her about it. But she wants us to have read the book before we talk to her. So
yeah, excellent.
So we're working on that. Anyway, so and then Drew Decker is coming. The heading for his talk is a pilot study investigating the effects of the ketogenic intervention in college students with major depression. So it seems like there's going to a lot of focus of a lot of these talks is going to be on depression, and it's such a big issue, and it's things that is on college campuses as well that they deal with, or that maybe they don't deal with very well.
And there you got a suicide rate that's just
it's horrendous,
growing and growing.
So hopefully this is going to help to educate people about how we might be able to. It's a bit like PTSD with our military. Coming back, we throw them into war, and then they come back, and we don't give them any support, and and they really suffer. And I think these students are I think the whole academic playing field now is just becoming more and more and more intense, and they're under more and more pressure, and that's leading to mental health problems. So we've still got the San Diego event is 4 days instead of 3, like the Boca event. So we have some pretty incredible speakers coming to speak on the other days. We have Paul Mason coming from Australia, who's just like epic. Gary Taubes is coming back again, Anthony Chafee and Matthew Phillips, Brian Lenskes, Dre Wortman, Michael Eads, Dave Feldman, Dom D'Agostino. We have an amazing physician called Roshni Shangani, Sangani, who's coming from India to come and speak. Amazing. She did a grand rounds talk for those people who eventually join and become members of the SMHP. There's a talk that she did on as one of our grand round sessions, which is just like outstanding. Dr.
Wow. Wow.
Ben, Adrian Sotomayor, who's coming from Mexico, he's probably one of the probably is like the leading guy in terms of analyzing data and stuff. That's like his wheelhouse. So he's using that skill to analyze data that is being collected on these different interventions for different conditions, and I'm really looking forward to his talk.
Beautiful.
So I mean that's kind of where we are with all the speakers for the event. Pretty excited about that, but in a way for us it's kind of same old, like it's like we've done this is going to be our 21st event since we started. So
yeah, but you do have to remember that you're putting together a phenomenal event. You know, you do this phenomenal event every time and you're like, oh yeah, it's just another event. But there's so many great speakers and so many opportunities.
Sorry to interrupt. I mean, we do feel like we're getting each time we do a bit better because we try and learn from the previous one. We try and get more and more, high profile speakers and stuff in to fill in all the slots. And but it's almost like we're doing that almost on autopilot. And so finding new things to do is kind of what we're doing. And so launching the SMHP, the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, and creating all the resources that we have there. I was starting to pull them up here before we were talking, but so we have a practitioner database, right? That people can go and search and try and find a doctor in their area that can help them, because generally the doctors are not familiar with this intervention, and so normally we'll tell people that they better stop doing that because otherwise they're going to die of a heart attack or something. And so people are trying to find doctors and practitioners that can help them, who are familiar and at least open to offering this as an option to their patients who want to do it. So we have the accreditation process where practitioners, doctors, and other healthcare practitioners that are in the space can go through different pathways to get accredited, and they are able to use MHP behind their name, Metabolic Health Practitioner, once they are accredited. And it's turned out to be an amazingly popular or important feature that we've added, to the organization.
How long is that process, Doug? I know that it varies, right?
So yeah. So I mean, it does. I mean, there's the pure educational pathway, which involves a number of core modules that you have to do that are provided by the Nutrition Network, which is an offshoot of the Noakes Foundation in South Africa. And then there's a number of what we're calling CMHEs, Continuing Medical Health Education Credits, which you can get from attending events like this one that we're talking about in August. As Low Carb USA, we've recorded a few from previous years that are still available on video that you can still fill out the survey and request a CME certificate for. There's, the Low Carb Denver conference and this, what's it called? The Metabolic Health Summit, and even public health collaboration that we're going to London next week to attend that conference, to represent the SMHP there at that conference. And, they provide CMEs then those credits will get recognized as well towards your 60 that you have to accumulate in order to apply to be accredited.
I
So you
see,
have to do
60
all of
in it.
these
Okay.
modules, accumulate 60 credits, and then you can apply. But then you have people that have been in this space forever. Steve Finney, for instance. For those people who are new to this, you're going to look up at Steve Finney. I mean, he's like been doing this forever, and long before it was accepted, and he was ostracized and very poorly treated and stuff. And now everything's coming around and showing that what he was talking about back then is true. And so where were we going with this?
We were talking about the different things that you guys can offer, in addition to becoming a metabolic practitioner.
Oh,
There's other
right.
things that
Okay.
are
So
going on.
so where I was going with that was, so Steve, we're not going to say to him, hey, Steve, you have to do these courses so that you can become accredited, right? So we have a clinical practice pathway where the person can basically just write an essay that describes how they got into using this intervention in the first place, talk about a few different successful cases that they've had, and we asked them to talk about a few difficult ones that they've had where they either failed or had a lot of trouble. And then they need to do the ethics course, which is always like that's a given. And then they only need to accumulate 30 credits, and then they can apply. So most of them are going to these conferences all the time, so the credits are not an issue. To write the essay, I don't know, maybe a few hours a day. I would imagine it's only, we're only requiring 3 or 4 pages. It's not like it has to be a book. So for those people, that's probably quite a lot quicker. With the education pathway, I mean, I went through all of those courses, but I sat down and literally just did them 8 hours a day. And it still took a couple of weeks, but it got through them pretty quickly. But most people have a job, right? And so I was just in a position at that stage, I think it was during COVID, and I was building the SMHP at the same time, but I took that time to spend hours each day listening to these lectures. But it's a few months, I think, really, because people maybe can come listen to one lecture a night, and there's sometimes 15, 16 lectures in a module, and there's a bunch of different modules. So it's not like you can do it like I did. Most people can't. But it's not years, right? And it's not like getting your medical degree. It's very attainable, and just requires that people learn about this so that we're confident if they go out and talk to their patients or their clients about it, that they know what they're talking about. And so that's kind of where that comes from. We have a bunch of resources that that's growing. I'm just looking through the ones here now. We've got overview of the benefits and risk of TCR, therapeutic carbohydrate reduction. And all of these handouts are basically either one page or back to back. So it's still one sheet if you print it. But so introduction to low carb, why your patients should wear a CGM, introduction to insulin resistance, metabolic health pitch deck. So that's an actual slide deck that we've created where, so if somebody wants to go to their practice and suggest to them that maybe they open a metabolic health office in their practice, then one of the members on our board did an amazing job, Matt Calkins, of creating this lecture for them. So it's literally like plug and play. You go and listen to this. The slide deck's there. He's done a recording of presenting the actual
Oh, wow.
lecture.
That's wonderful to
And so,
educate.
yeah, that's a super resource. And a lot of these are sort of patient level ones as well, where you can print it out and take it to your doctor, where your doctor's not fully on board, and you can show him this official document now that comes from an organization that's becoming more and more established, and saying, this is what I want you to learn about, so that you can help me do this, because I want to do this, and I don't want to fire you and go and have to find another doctor that will do it with me. I would rather that you learn about this and get on board with us, and at least help me to do it.
Yeah,
And
I'm seeking a second opinion right now with a second cardiologist, because they want to put me on a statin and do these things I don't want to do, and my numbers aren't that bad.
no,
And when you're looking at my triglyceride to HDL ratio, that's like dropped in half. And so, and yeah, so that's great. That's wonderful.
Obviously no medical advice or anything like that, but one thing that I do, but also because I hear people in our field like icons like Rob Cyrus and that kind of stuff, they keep reminding us that you have to remember that the doctor can't put you on statins or put you on any kind of medication for that matter. They can prescribe it, they can recommend it, but they cannot put you on it and force you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your
That's
choice.
Why I'm not on one.
If you don't know, if your understanding of the situation is such that you don't believe that you should do that, then I'm saying, I'm not going to say don't take it, because then I could get into trouble. So, but what I would say is find another doctor, which is what you're doing. But I'm hoping that you're going through this provider database that we're talking about and finding a cardiologist. Like I talked about Brett Scher. I mean, Brett Scher, even though he's heading up the Metabolic Mind now, which is all in mental health, he's actually a cardiologist, and he's actually done talks on heart health at a number of our conferences previously.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Worst case is find him in August. The problem I have with that is that people going up to people like him at the conference and asking for medical advice. So you need to be careful of that. But at the very least, tell him, look, I need a second opinion. Can I get an appointment with you? If you look him up on the website, and if he's in the list of providers, then there are more and more practitioners that are starting to do remote consultations. Philip Ovadia has spoken at he's a cardiothoracic surgeon, and he wrote that book, Stay Off My Operating Table.
Mm-hmm.
And
Karen knows that book.
Right. So he's fully into this TCR metabolic health space. So it's not easy and it's not cheap, but find someone like that if there's no other option to get an opinion from before you take a statin. I mean, it's
good advice. Good advice.
Really.
Can you talk a little bit about the journal and what's going on with that?
Yeah, so we just recently, a couple of months ago now, probably more, time flies so much, probably a few more than a few months ago, but I think towards the end of last year, so maybe 6 months ago now, we launched the Journal of Metabolic Health. And it's now the SMHP journal, right? And one of the things that's come out of it is like so many doctors and practitioners have all of this data, clinical data, patient records and stuff that they don't know what to do with. They know there's an article there somewhere, but they don't know how to do it. And so we have a Dr. Melanie Tidman, who's one of our members, she's also a professor at a few different universities, and she actually runs journal clubs at those universities for the students. So she's going about creating a whole training program. She's got 10 videos that she's busy that she's got planned out, that she's going to create, like all training videos about how to do these different things, starting out by how do you actually come up with a concept, like what is this study or this review or this article going to be about? What's like a title, basically? How do you come up with a title in the first place? How do you decide what you want to do? And then, like, what do you do from there? Like, you've got all of this data. We've actually got an application into RedCap, which is a very well-known data entry database platform that is used by research organizations all around the world, actually. But we are getting a version of that that's going to be available to our members, the SMHP members, for free. So as long as they're members, they will be able to access that database and enter their data. And what's cool about it is that it can get anonymized, and then people can do meta-analysis and stuff. So they can draw on data that's being pulled, that's being put in there by other doctors and other practitioners, and they can, do searches and stuff and get numbers of people that have, with a particular term or whatever that they can find that allows them to find patients that have had a similar experience, or that have some criteria that they're looking for. But it doesn't have to only be their patients. They can draw on anonymous data from
everybody's patients.
Everything that's in the database.
Wow, that's fabulous.
So then there's going to be some lectures teaching them how to use that system and how to put that in there. And then what do you do with it? How do you run those analyses? And I was talking about Adrian Sotomayor, who is coming to speak in August. And we've talked to him about this, and this is his wheelhouse, is now analyzing data. And so he's going to help do some course lectures and stuff about how, once they've put the information in, how they can actually organize it and analyze it, and how that works and how to do it. And then finally there'll be the final sort of training lectures will be about how to now actually create a manuscript from all of this, and the publishing process, and how to go about that, and how to actually get a document submitted to the journal and go through the review process, and eventually end up with something that's published.
Yeah.
And the more of these papers that we can get published, the more people are going to be able to do these meta-analyses on, and the more weight we have behind the fact that we believe that this is very effective intervention that all doctors should be at least offering to their patients, which is obviously very much not the case.
Yeah, and the more education that can be going on for other physicians out there, or for other people, about, low carb eating and how good it is for you. The data
Correct.
will prove it. And it's been going on long enough now. And I just think it's wonderful that you're pooling all the data and getting it, creating a way for it to get out there.
We're pretty excited about that. So like I was saying, like, this is our 21st conference, and it's we're still kind of excited about the Mental Health Day, and excited about some of the amazing speakers that we've managed to get to agree to come and speak. But still, we were looking for more, and this is the kind of stuff that it's almost like I do a bit of a timeline at my opening talk at each of these events, and it's sort of like, hey, we started here, and these are the things that have happened since then, and what we've done, and now we've got a new nonprofit and all of these things. But it's amazing. Like we do 2 events a year, and at every single one, I've been able to talk about something new that we have added to the features or the services that we provide to this community. Yeah, so that's why we keep striving to find new things that we can do to add value to everyone.
Wonderful, wonderful. I know I don't. Are there any other resources that you wanted to bring up before we go?
So not really. The clinical guidelines. Wow.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Who could forget about the clinical guidelines? So we actually published those originally on the Low Carb USA website, but it really wasn't the right place. So once we created the SMHP, this was now the real home that this document had been pining for. And so we moved it over there, and we're actually busy working on the first revision of it since it was published. And in the process of doing that, Dr. Eric Westman, who's on our board, is rewriting it or reformatting it to put it in a publishable state. So we're hoping to actually publish. And I mean, it's a much bigger document than was normally published in a journal. It's like 38 pages or something. But we're working with the journal people to see if there's a way that we can, or to come up with a way, because there is a way. We just have to find it. But so that we can actually publish this in a journal, that it's actually out there publicly as a published document.
Yeah.
And then we've got all these what we call condition-specific addenda, which we always intended to build onto this generic basic set of guidelines. So we're busy working on one for type 1. We're trying to find the funding to do work for one on type 2 and cancer, and then start to go into the mental health. It'll probably be just mental health generically, as opposed to something, but then it may even break out from there and have
Into
specific
dementia.
ones for different conditions, neurological conditions. That's probably going to be at the next one of the next events after this is going to be a focus on neurology and some of the neurological conditions that it's so beneficial for as well. So there'll be, a consensus statement for that as well. But these things take time, a lot of time. And so up till now, everybody's been doing it for free, right? Because everybody just wants to contribute as much as they can to this space, but they also have a job. And so they can only spend so much time on it each day. And so it drags out, and it takes, months turn into years. And so we're also trying to raise some funds to be able to finance medical writers to get these great people to kind of bring all the information together, and then which can be done without too much trouble. But then get somebody that's paid to sit down and write this document and get it banged out in like 2 months or a month, as opposed to 2.5 years or 3 years.
Yeah.
So all of those things are the kind of projects that we're working on in the background to try and make this thing work better and be more useful to more people.
How wonderful. And it comes from your heart. I know it comes from your heart because this is not a lucrative process for you guys. And, it's just really, I'm so grateful to have run into Low Carb USA and, even just this video and getting it out there for people to explore and look at the Symposium for Metabolic Health and, start thinking about, low carb eating and, total carb reduction and it's just a wonderful up and coming topic that, is getting near and dear to my heart too.
Yeah, no, and we're excited to. I mean, you've set that challenge, right? So you got up on the stage last year and told everybody, "This is what I'm doing."
I
And
did,
yeah,
and I have to tell you
we've
that
got it on video, Cammy. So
and I'm down 30 pounds, but I've got what, 3 months. And so I'm, the clock is ticking. And so
yeah.
now I just kicked myself into carnivore OMADs
Oh
and
wow.
trying to
Okay.
get intermittent fasting up to 36 hours because that's what's going to work. It turns out I'm really good at building muscle, but I'm not good at losing the fat. So
Right.
that's the second part of it that is coming. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next few months.
But we're definitely, we from that time that you're on stage, I'm sure we can come up with a before picture. So we're looking forward to, but it's more than just the picture, right? Because I think that's what everybody kind of sees is the weight loss. But what they don't see is the drastic improvements in metabolic markers and health markers that that literally, unless you look at the labs, you would never know.
Yeah. And I just got my labs drawn and you can see what's happening. My hemoglobin A1C is 5.7 and that's almost normal. My HDL, there she is. My HDL is 38, which is still very low. But for me, that's the highest HDL I've ever gotten because I have both sides of my parents with low HDL. My triglycerides are 155, so they're almost to 150. So it's happening on the blood work for sure.
Yeah, and that's the most important part. I mean, yes, getting your weight down is a good thing, but the most important thing is your other metabolic health markers and whether your diabetes is reversing, whether you're able to control your type 1 diabetes so much better. Your cardiovascular disease risk has gone down. Your PCOS has gone away. And talking about mental health, I mean, there are stories of people's lives, and I don't even think I try, but I don't think I can imagine how terrible it is to live with some of these psychiatric conditions, schizophrenia and bipolar disease and those, and to hear people like Matt talk about what their life was like and how different it is now is hard for me to even deal with sometimes. I know I talked about Dr. Chris Palmer. He did a talk in, I think it was our first Boca event back just before COVID. And he told a story about one of his patients with schizophrenia. And that was kind of how he finished his talk. And he painted the picture of what this guy's life was like before he came to him. And then he showed a picture of him now. He's normal now. He's able to function normally. He's a totally normal person. He doesn't have that condition affect him at all anymore. And it was like he finished his talk and it's like you could hear a pin drop in the whole hall. Everybody had tears in their eyes. And I had to get up on the stage and sort of kick off the Q&A. And I was like, I couldn't speak. That's how powerful it is. And that's why we keep doing this, because when we hear stuff like that, we realize that that's why we do it. And so
it's worth it. It's worth all that work. Karen, welcome visually. And did you have any questions? We've had such a wonderful discussion of all these great things going on with Low Carb USA and Mr. Doug Reynolds.
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited because I think this Low Carb USA and Symposium for Metabolic Health and everything that you're up to, Doug, is just it's funny because it's like groundbreaking. It is like the final. This is how things were back in the whatever 1800s, or really before industrialization and before we brought in all this crap into our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just taken this long to actually recognize that it's the food that we're eating and the chemicals and everything that's taking its toll. And I think that this is actually the start, like the jumping off point now of things being probably reclassified, and hopefully medicine being delivered in a new way. The story that you're talking about for the bipolar, I had a cousin who, he's probably 80 years old now, 19 years old, just, was determined to be bipolar. And probably the decade or the generation before him never dealt with that kind of issue, right? And that's probably when things started going on with, epigenetics and all of that. And I just see this being, this is going to, it's just a tiny little hole right now, but it's going to blast open.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely believe that, and we, we're hoping that we can be a whole part of that journey, because that's what we're striving towards, So, just I mean, Cammy, I don't know if you remember back when we were at Jeff's place a couple of months ago in March, I think, when we had that local San Diego meeting there when we were there.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Brian Lenskes was there, and he was telling us about his, what's his name, Cranmer. I actually did a podcast interview with him after last year's San Diego event, but then Brian did a thing with him as well. He has all these homes for the aged, I suppose you can call them, that he runs, and he's been trying to introduce this TCR thing into his populations, and for the ones that he can obviously get on board, obviously seeing like he talked to me about it, like people that were institutionalized basically because they couldn't function, and he was sending them home after a few months because they, and Brian at that meeting, Cammy was telling me about, he had just done an interview with this guy, and he was talking about and he had some video of it, this old guy that was so sick that he was like literally bent over, like catatonic, and like literally just drooling, just completely out of it. And there's a picture of him 3 months later. He's sitting in the lounge with his family, and his grandson is throwing a ball at him, and he's bashing it back to him, like in like 3 months. And I just feel like it's criminal that everybody at least doesn't have the option of trying to do that for themselves.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw who shared it with me. So Anthony Chaffee had an Instagram post that he put out where he was talking about his 72-year-old patient who was saying thank you so much. She had gone keto and then carnivore, and then Lion is like the ultimate version of carnivore, I believe now. But talking about A1Cs of 15 and just like crazy numbers and diabetes and all sorts of stuff that was wrong with her. She couldn't get out of it. She was in a wheelchair and she couldn't get up. And A1C is down to 4.8. She's out of her wheelchair.
Wow.
But the text that he wrote on that post was like, how is it even possible that somebody would try to dissuade you from having that for yourself, for trying this and trying to make this story happen for you? And he said that he's basically was pretty adamant about it, saying like, the depths of depravity that someone has to stoop to try and dissuade someone from trying to make their life better. And he said it. He basically finished off by saying, if this doesn't upset you, then nothing will. And he said it's something that bothers him like every day. And that's, he's on the same mission as us. That's what we're trying to fix, or help to fix. We're not going to fix it on our own, but like to be a part of fixing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think of like one day at a time, like
Yeah.
one patient at a time, one diet at a time.
One meal at a
until
time. In fact, that was the thing that inspired Pam so much. Like we did, we were in South Africa, and we were in Cape Town, and we went to visit Tim Noakes at his science institute there. And we actually went into the conference room and we did an interview with him. And during that interview, he said basically that their mission is to change the world one meal at a time. And somehow that really resonated with Pam. She sort of repeats that phrase like frequently, in conversations with other people, that like you can't flick a switch. You change your life and you change other people's lives one meal at a time.
I like it. It's a good mantra too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here with us. This feels
It's been
like
a pleasure.
a good stopping place. And we're just so grateful. We're so excited for everything that you're doing. I know I am excited to see how things are going to roll out with the journal and with, the metabolic practitioners, and making them available to people who want to have a different kind of medicine, taking place in their lives, and hopefully starting to chip away at the, the other physicians in the world that are out there that have not been trained this way, me being one of them, and to educate and to really have it, create success like that, one meal at a time.
Yeah. So we are actually busy working with, about that textbook Ketogenic that's come out, that the Noakes Foundation basically put together.
Yes.
An amazing sort of medical level textbook, right?
Yeah.
So one of the ladies who was basically the main editor on that book, was the document started out as a countering the myths of keto or something like that someone wanted me to write, but he wanted us to publish it on Low Carb USA. And I said, it was quite bloggy kind of thing. And it was like, we're a professional organization, and so if we put something on the site, it's got to be accurate, and it's got to be defendable. We've got to be able to cite things for everything that we say. So I bounced this off Sarah, like, would she give me like a handful of references that I could use in this document. And she started looking at it, and the next I gave her access, it was a Google Doc, and the next minute, like, I'm looking and there's all sorts of changes, and she rewrote it, because it's got like 10 or 13 different like myths that it was addressing, and then about 15 or so benefits like of keto, and it's now up to like 23 benefits. She's rewritten everything, and she's got citations for everything. We're up to 256 citations, and we're still going. I think we'd probably be over 260 by the time the document's finished.
Wow.
But it's pitched at a more public level, you know what I'm saying? So it's not a clinical reference like the ketogenic book really is. But to convince the man in the street and give him accurate information and truthful information without hyperbole, just like the facts, but also really good for physicians who might, to try and educate physicians who are not on board yet. So it's not going into all this in huge biochemical depths and stuff like that, where yes, they can understand it if they choose to, but it's like an effort, and they don't want to go there. This is like at a low enough level to hopefully educate them about the misconceptions and why those are misconceptions, and then all of these things. And I mean, you go through the list of benefits. It's just like all these different things. We've mentioned a lot of it in this talk. All these different conditions that it can help with, or reverse, or both, and for me, even more importantly, can prevent. Why do you have to get sick first before you go and take on this way of eating or this lifestyle to try and reverse it and get better again? Yeah. Why not just do that from the beginning and not get sick in the first place? That's my strongest argument. That's why when we have youngsters that come in that are interested, I get really excited because those are the people that we really need to get on board. And it's so easy when you're young because you're bulletproof. These conditions that you are going to develop in your 50s are nothing to be concerned about when you're 14 years old, right? I mean, other than to read about it and believe it enough that you think that it's something that's worth taking note of and taking to heart. And so we got friends of ours whose daughter, they've 2 14-year-old girls. They're doing a science project, and their thing is to try and prove that food can be a replacement for medicine or something in certain cases, or to improve metabolic health. And they put out a survey to ask people about it. So we sent it out on our, to all the SMHP mailing list, and said, hey, if you're up for this, let's support 2 14-year-old girls, because to me it's mega exciting that they want to do this.
When you're getting to the youth, man, you're making some strides.
Yeah, so it's brilliant. We can't believe it. And now we want to help them turn this into something that maybe even turns out to be some kind of presentation that they can end up going around to schools and presenting to other schools and that. So
getting that conversation out there.
Yeah, but it's just so awesome when kids like that get it. Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a great day. We appreciate your time and all of your information. I look so forward to seeing you in August. It'll be here before we know it.
Yep.
Yeah, and be ready, Cammy. We got the before and after, right?
There we go.
Ready.
But part of that needs to be at least a slide that shows your
lab results,
your improvements in your that people can't see. Those are the improvements I want to see.
Yeah, I can put together a little 10-minute show.
Yeah, I don't.
If you can squeeze me in
anywhere. Struggle to get 1 minute, but I'll try and find out time.
1 minute. I'll take 1 minute.
Here we go.
I'll take what you give me.
But yeah, we'll find a way somehow to highlight your story again, because I think it's important and it's real, It's all it's your struggles and that's what people relate to. Everybody doesn't just go on keto and everything's fine. It doesn't work like that,
Especially with the history of binge eating disorder.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. But there are so many more than we even know about that have the same issue, Cammy. And so they need to see this so that they can see, okay, hey, that's me. I can also do that. If I stand up there and tell your story about, what happened to you, it's not going to be the same as them seeing you and seeing themselves in you and thinking, wow, I can do this.
Yeah.
What you're doing is important.
Ditto.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug. Thanks,
All
Low
right.
Carb USA, Metabolic Health Symposium.
All right, guys.
Oh, yeah. And Doug, we're going to have you stay on after we finish recording because it has to upload.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Stay on your
okay.
just stay on your computer.
All
That's
right. We'll
fine.
see ya.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
So I
Bye.
mustn't like log out of this thing. I must just stay logged in.